There's no way that you could watch Michael Jordan and LeBron James and think that Michael Jordan is not the GOAT.
LeBron James has spent years at the center of the basketball world, often receiving the benefit of the doubt whenever criticism came his way. Over time, disappointing performances were frequently explained by factors outside of his control. People pointed to coaching decisions, roster construction, front office mistakes, difficult scheduling, unfavorable matchups, or the idea that he simply needed stronger teammates. In many situations, those arguments carried legitimate weight. Lately, though, the conversation has begun to change. The familiar defenses are becoming less convincing, patience is wearing thin, and even media voices that once consistently defended LeBron are starting to take a more critical stance. That shift is what makes the current discussion stand out from so many others. This time, the focus is not on a missed shot or an off night offensively. Instead, the spotlight has turned toward a much more significant issue. The debate is centered on his defensive commitment, his level of effort, and whether a 41-year-old LeBron James should be held accountable on the defensive end just as much as he is celebrated for his spectacular highlight plays. According to the report, those concerns are no longer being whispered in the background. They are becoming increasingly difficult to ignore, with more analysts and observers openly questioning whether LeBron's defensive intensity still matches the praise he continues to receive.
In your best interest to play all 82. Is that something you thought about at all since you made the goal?
That's a goal, but it's something I ain't discussing right now.
Reports indicate the Lakers held a discussion involving J.J. Redick, LeBron James, and Luka Doncic following a stretch of disappointing defensive performances. Redick, who has built a reputation for demanding accountability from his players, reportedly challenged his two biggest stars to bring greater intensity on the defensive end. That alone says a lot about where the team's concerns currently lie. The debate is no longer centered on whether LeBron can still put up points. Nobody is questioning his ability to finish above the rim, deliver a highlight dunk, or come up with the occasional chase-down block. Those flashes of brilliance are still there for everyone to see. The real question is whether he is consistently providing the defensive effort the Lakers need every single night. That is where the criticism has become much sharper. The report also raises a straightforward point. The most common explanation offered today is LeBron's age. At 41 years old, many people argue that expecting him to defend every possession at full speed is unrealistic. Supporters point out that he is no longer the athlete he was in his late 20s and naturally has to conserve energy throughout games. On the surface, that reasoning seems perfectly understandable. However, the argument in the report suggests there is another side to the discussion. Whenever LeBron throws down a powerful dunk, races the floor in transition, delivers a spectacular chase-down block, or shows explosive athleticism, the conversation immediately shifts to celebrating how incredible he still is for his age. His longevity is praised as unprecedented, and those moments are often used to strengthen his place in the greatest of all-time debate. That leads to a simple question. If his athletic highlights are still treated as evidence that he remains exceptional, should his defensive shortcomings be beyond criticism simply because he is older? According to the report, that is the heart of the debate, as it points to what some view as an inconsistent standard that has followed LeBron throughout his career. He receives widespread recognition whenever he produces memorable highlights or reaches another historic milestone. Those accomplishments are celebrated across the basketball world and added to his already remarkable legacy. Yet when the discussion turns toward defensive consistency and effort, the explanation quickly changes. Age becomes the focus. Fatigue becomes the justification. His years in the league are cited as reasons expectations should be lowered, with many arguing that asking him to defend at a high level every possession is simply asking too much.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we came that far, so, trying to see if I can make plays. Obviously my presence on the floor, is key for our ball club, but, I thought the guys did a great job, especially in overtime. I thought Marcus was great in overtime, hit the three, and away from their bench. I think Rui threw it over the top. He hit the three, got to the free throw line, made free throws.
That is the central point the report keeps emphasizing. The argument isn't that LeBron should suddenly defend like an all-time perimeter stopper. No one expects him to spend every minute shadowing the opposing team's best scorer or covering the entire floor the way he could decades ago. At 41, everyone understands there are natural physical limitations. The criticism focuses on something different. There is a clear distinction between managing your energy and appearing mentally disconnected from a possession. There is a difference between pacing yourself and simply failing to compete with consistent effort. That distinction is what fuels this entire debate. According to the report, LeBron's defensive concerns cannot be explained by age alone. That has become one of the biggest points of disagreement. If his body were no longer capable of making impactful defensive plays, the discussion would naturally revolve around reduced minutes, changing roles, and the realities of aging in professional sports. Instead, the report argues there are still plenty of moments that show he remains physically capable. He can still sprint back for a momentum-changing stop. He can still elevate for powerful dunks. He can still display bursts of athleticism that make him look far younger than his actual age. Because of that, the report suggests the issue is less about ability and more about consistency in when that effort appears. The criticism becomes sharper from there. The report claims LeBron is selective about when he fully commits on the defensive end. It argues there are possessions where he attacks with urgency, while on others he appears content to conserve energy. There are stretches where he aggressively pursues a play, followed by others where he remains stationary or spends valuable seconds reacting to officials after a turnover while the action continues the other way. Those are the moments, according to the report, that fans notice most, making it increasingly difficult for supporters to rely on the same explanations every time the topic comes up. The reported meeting with J.J. Redick also plays a significant role in the discussion. If the Lakers head coach felt the need to sit down with both LeBron James and Luka Doncic to address defensive accountability, it suggests the concern had already become an internal priority rather than just a media storyline. The report portrays it as evidence that the coaching staff believed improvements were necessary inside the locker room, not simply in public conversation. It also argues that asking a player with LeBron's experience and resume to raise his defensive intensity reflects how serious the situation had become. According to the report, however, that conversation did not immediately translate into better results. The Lakers followed a win over the Kings with another disappointing defensive performance against the Pistons. The team's defensive struggles reportedly continued, and the overall performance remained inconsistent. The report further claims that LeBron remained one of the team's weakest defenders during that stretch, and even points to his position near the bottom of the league in individual defensive win shares as supporting evidence. Whether people agree with that interpretation or not, the report argues that statistics once considered too uncomfortable to mention alongside LeBron's name have now become part of the broader conversation surrounding his game.
Michael Jordan has 10 scoring titles. Michael Jordan was a 9-time All-NBA defensive team member. Michael Jordan won 6 titles, 6 NBA Finals MVPs, never once allowed a game to get to a championship series to get to a game 7. Never once. That was in his 13 years in Chicago. We ain't counting the 2 years with the Wizards. He was trying to become an owner, and they needed him to come out of retirement to have an ownership stake. That's what they needed.
From a Lakers fan's perspective, that is where the frustration really starts to build. The team already has enough challenges to deal with. This is not a roster so talented that it can overcome defensive breakdowns simply by outscoring everyone every night. For the Lakers to succeed, their biggest stars have to establish the standard. They need LeBron James and Luka Doncic to bring consistent energy on both ends of the floor so the rest of the roster can follow their example. When that doesn't happen, the Lakers become vulnerable to the same disappointing performances the report highlights: lopsided losses, defensive collapses, and games against beatable opponents that end up looking far more difficult than they should. That naturally leads back to one of the most common defenses offered by LeBron supporters. The argument is familiar: the roster simply isn't strong enough. The Lakers lack reliable depth. They don't have enough defensive specialists. The supporting cast has too many weaknesses, making it unrealistic to expect championship-level results. To an extent, those criticisms are fair. The Lakers are far from a flawless team, and their roster clearly has limitations. However, the report argues that roster issues alone cannot explain inconsistent effort. They may help explain why Los Angeles isn't viewed as the favorite to win a title or why the defense struggles as a whole, but they don't fully account for possessions where LeBron appears slow to get back, fails to contest second-chance opportunities, or seems less engaged than the moment demands. According to the report, that is where the usual explanations begin to lose their impact. The discussion then turns to another interesting point. If LeBron truly no longer has the physical ability to defend consistently because of his age, the logical solution would be to adjust his role. That could mean fewer minutes, a lighter workload, or accepting a more limited role similar to other veteran players late in their careers. The report suggests those would be reasonable adjustments if physical decline were the primary issue. However, it also argues that LeBron himself has repeatedly pushed back against those kinds of restrictions. The report references previous attempts by the Lakers to manage his workload through minute limitations, claiming he resisted those plans because he believed he was still capable of handling a major role. If that is the position a player takes, the report argues, then criticism naturally follows whenever the performance fails to match those expectations. In other words, if you present yourself as fully capable of carrying a star-level workload, people will also expect star-level accountability. That idea forms.
Every person in the bubble is under a unique circumstance. Everybody that's in the bubble is not accustomed in a professional career of playing without fans. So, Skip, no one wants to hear why you guys haven't played well, why you haven't shot the ball well, why you haven't looked like the Lakers that gained the #1 seed in the West. All they want to hear is, what are you going to do to fix the problem?
According to the report, that shift changes what the Lakers should realistically expect from LeBron at this stage of his career. They no longer need him to control every possession or operate as the team's sole offensive engine. They don't need him chasing individual numbers or trying to shoulder the spotlight on every trip down the floor. What they need most is a veteran leader whose impact consistently helps the team win. If that requires sacrificing touches, statistics, or some of the responsibilities he carried earlier in his career, the report argues that those adjustments are simply part of evolving within a championship-minded team. That idea remains at the center of the report's message. The Lakers exist to compete for victories, not to serve as a platform for one player's highlight reel. The report argues that the organization's priority is winning basketball games, regardless of individual accomplishments. If the roster has weaknesses, the solution cannot be relying on one-way basketball while expecting recognition on the offensive end alone. According to the report, the real measure is whether a player is making meaningful contributions to winning, and that standard should apply to everyone, including LeBron. It may sound demanding, but the report presents it as a reasonable expectation for a veteran superstar. The report also raises a much tougher question. It suggests that if LeBron eventually reaches a point where he can no longer consistently handle the core responsibilities expected of him, then difficult decisions will naturally follow. That doesn't necessarily mean the answer is immediate retirement, but it does mean evaluating whether his current role still matches what he can realistically provide. The report